Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending our second webinar about London's downtown plan. My name is Andrew, and I'm a manager with the City of London's communications team. Before we get started, I want to let everyone know that we're recording this meeting, and a copy of it will be added to the project's webpage on our Get Involved website. That's getinvolved.london.ca/downtownplan. The presentation tonight is our second webinar to provide an update about the ongoing work to develop a downtown plan. During the presentation, we'll stop for question and answer periods as well. To ask your question or share comments, we ask that you please use the Q&A feature on Zoom. This icon is located at the bottom of your screen and is marked with the word Q&A. Your comments will be shared with the project team to review after the webinar. To ensure that we keep communication streamlined and we don't miss anyone's questions or comments, we've disabled the chat function for the webinar tonight, so please use the Q&A tool. If you have a question or comment but are not comfortable asking it while this meeting is being recorded, or you wish to share personal information in your question about your address or a specific property, you're welcome to contact us directly at dmp@london.ca after the meeting. And finally, if you're joining the webinar by phone call tonight, please share your comments and questions with us after the webinar by emailing dmp@london.ca, and we'll follow up with you. Before we start the presentation, I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we're gathered today on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and Attawandaron. We acknowledge all the treaties that are specific to this area: the two-row Wampum Belt Treaty of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, Silver Covenant Chain, the Beaver Hunting Grounds of the Haudenosaunee Nanfan Treaty of 1701, the McKee Treaty of 1790, the London Township Treaty of 1796, the Huron Tract Treaty of 1827 with the Anishinaabe, and the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Wampum of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee. This land continues to be home to diverse Indigenous people, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, whom we recognize as contemporary stewards of the land and vital contributors to society. We hold all that is in the natural world in our highest esteem and give honor to the wonderment of all things in creation. The three Indigenous nations that are neighbors to London are the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and the Munsee Delaware Nation, who all continue to live as sovereign nations with individual and unique languages, cultures, and customs. We encourage everyone tonight to be informed about the traditional lands, treaties, history, and cultures of the Indigenous people local to their region. Thank you. And with that, I'll pass it next over to Simona Rasanu, Senior Planner at the City of London, to introduce the project and speak about the project team, and we'll begin the presentation. So with that, welcome, Simona.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Downtown Project Phase 2 Virtual Summit. As Andrew mentioned, my name is Simona Rasanu, and I'm a Senior Planner with the city's Community Improvement and Urban Regeneration team and part of the project team. My manager, Mike McCauley, is also here with me tonight. As you may know, city staff are working with a consulting team led by the Canadian Urban Institute to deliver a plan that will establish a strategic vision and policy roadmap to guide change in the city's downtown over the next decade. We're currently in Phase 2, which builds on the extensive research and engagement completed during Phase 1 of the downtown plan. Community input remains central to shaping the downtown plan. Tonight, you'll hear about potential draft actions that have been developed in response to what was heard from residents, businesses, and community organizations during Phase 1. The focus of Phase 2 is refining priorities, testing ideas, and identifying practical steps to guide implementation. Each draft action is organized around one of 4 downtown moves, which reflect focus areas identified in Phase 1. Feedback from this meeting will help refine the draft downtown plan before it is brought forward to Council for its consideration by the end of June 2026, so in a few months. And now I'm going to pass it on to Jennifer Barrett and Catherine Osterban from the consulting team, who will lead you through the draft actions.
Great. Thank you, Simona. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for being here. I'll lead you through a short presentation this afternoon to provide some progress to date on the downtown plan and some context setting for this discussion. And that will be followed by a presentation and a discussion led by my colleague, Catherine Osterban. We have a very diverse and broad-ranging project team. The two of us who are here tonight represent the Canadian Urban Institute and Oosterbrand Strategy, our economic development lead, but we are also complemented with a team in urban design, planning, land economics, placemaking, diversity, and our consultants Arup on engineering and transportation. Many of you who attended the virtual seminar that we did in October during phase 1 of our work will remember the project timeline. We are approximately halfway through phase 2 of the work with a virtual summit and ongoing engagement with a number of focus groups and partners. And as Simona mentioned, we will be completing the plan later this spring. I want to start by giving a high-level overview of what the intent of the downtown plan for London will be. The goals and scope of the downtown plan are to establish a strategic vision and policies for the downtown, to define key priorities and direction for a number of themes for the downtown, including land use, mobility, public realm, cultural vitality, economic development, equity, and environmental resilience. We are here to identify opportunities for policy alignment and where there may be amendments to existing plans, policies, or municipal frameworks that are in place. The plan is meant to reflect the community priorities and incorporating insights from our engagement, which is why sessions like this are so important. We will provide high-level direction for investment and reinvestment in an implementation plan for the downtown plan, and also clarify the role of governance, partnerships, and management of the downtown. We will provide strategic and implementable actions, a high-level overview of which we will take you through tonight. And the implementation plan will also include key performance metrics so that we can evaluate progress as the plan takes place. Just to remind many of you or those who have not been part of our engagement, the study area we are defining as seen here on the map. It's approximately 2 square kilometers, bounded on the north by Oxford Street, to the west by the Thames River, to the east by the established residential neighborhoods, and to the south by the railway or York Street. To set the context for tonight's discussion, I want to start with a draft vision for the downtown plan and for downtown London. This is, with a renewed sense of purpose, new cultural energy, and investment momentum, downtown London will continue to be the city's cultural, economic, and civic heart, where interactions with culture, commerce, and community are a part of daily life. The discussion we will have today and the actions we will present are based on strategic directions that came out of our work for the background study, which was presented to committee and council in November of 2025. They include a goal of building on and enhancing existing assets. These include current parks and public spaces in the downtown, the riverfront, the market, and Dundas Place, bringing activity, diversity, and ensuring that anything we plan is accessible and broadly available to a diverse range of individuals. The goal will be to create safety, comfort, and community well-being in the downtown and to provide connection and mobility into and out of downtown. We want to make downtown active every day. This means adding amenities and services that can support daily life, both for a new and growing residential population, as well as workers and others who spend time in downtown. We want to include a diversity of programming, including support for arts and culture, which is already prominent in the downtown. An important part of our work will be retrofitting and adapting the reuse of buildings for a variety of use and finding new ways of achieving economic vitality in the downtown. And finally, the downtown plan will lay out a clear and accountable framework for implementation. This includes alignment with policies and programs that are in place, investment and incentives to drive investment and change in the downtown, and the leadership and structures that will be needed to implement the plan. Simona mentioned the downtown moves in her opening remarks, and these are the 4 that we'll be using to take you through the actions tonight. They include bringing vibrancy to the downtown, filling empty spaces, making downtown a complete neighborhood, that is bringing more amenities and services, and identifying the leadership and resources in order to implement the plan. I'm going to set the context and start by providing you an overview of some of the work that's being done by our colleagues at Belleville Placemaking, who use this pyramid or triangle as a programming strategy. You'll see the top of the triangle is highlighted to draw attention to the fact that downtown London excels in many ways in the things that are in the top of this pyramid. That is special events, monthly programs, and weekly rendezvous. What we are hoping to build on and to begin the plan with is by also focusing on the bottom of the pyramid. This means supporting more daily and seasonal events that can happen at all hours and at all times of the day and week in order to be able to bring new people who might not spend time in downtown or to encourage people to come downtown more and spend more time. This means building on the existing assets that exist and making spaces that attract people for everyday life. This diagram is meant to illustrate how we would use the pyramid shown in the previous slide to illustrate how implementation would take place. We will start with short-term actions that will create early interventions that can be done quite quickly to enhance existing assets and programming, to bring vibrancy to the downtown and help support those daily interactions. As the plan progresses or implementation of the plan progresses, these immediate actions will build midterm actions that build confidence and bring new investment to the downtown, with the long-term timeline meaning that investment will be in place for long-term growth and activation in the downtown. Based on that context to date, the objectives of today's summit are to reflect on the proposed goals and actions that Catherine will take you through based on the work and engagement that we did in phase 1 of this work. We hope to invite a diverse range of feedback that can be built into our actions for the downtown plan and to help us proceed with next steps, actions, and rules. And I want to just highlight as we take you through this that the actions are still in draft form and are summarized here at a high level for the discussion, with more detailed work going on behind the scenes and following this engagement to help refine the actions and the final downtown plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to Catherine. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer, and good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here to take you through the discussion part of this presentation and to share a little bit more about each of those downtown moves. Next slide, please, Jennifer. So just to give you a sense of how this is going to unfold, I'm going to start by introducing the move and the actions associated with each of them. And then we'll spend 2 to 3 minutes entering those comments in the Q&A function, as Andrew mentioned, and I think he'll give you a brief intro as well when we open the Q&A for that comment period. And then we'll take about 7 to 10 minutes to respond to comments and questions from the group here. Next slide, please. So the first move is really focused around bringing vibrancy, as Jennifer said, really to enhance those public spaces. So creating activity in everyday places to add that vibrancy into the downtown, improving and connecting these key assets that you already have within the community, things like Ivy Park, Rotary Square, Victoria Park, and Dundas Place, and including the public space and right-of-way areas. So what do these actions look like? First of all, we're going to look at programming and investment in existing public spaces and enhancing that in Ivy Park, in Rotary Square, and Victoria Park. We're going to be looking at other public spaces and rights of ways for small interventions to really enhance that downtown livability and comfort, making it a space that you want to walk through, that you would enjoy kind of perusing through, wandering through the downtown, and really adding to the activation of the community in the downtown. We're going to look at enhancing beautification efforts and supporting public safety, including investment in public art, shade, improved lighting, and seating. And then activating the riverfront, particularly at the forks of the Thames, for recreation and year-round programming. Next slide, please. So digging a little deeper into each of these actions, what does that mean? So when we're looking at enhancing that programming and investment in existing public space, we're thinking about, can we add those daily life amenities that really want to make you stay, linger, and enjoy the spaces in your downtown? Things like play structures for children, terraces, tables, chairs, patios that are publicly accessible, water and utility hookups for events in different places across the downtown, performance space, and concessions to really bring daily life into the downtown. And this one, again, really focuses on that lower level of the pyramid that Jennifer was sharing earlier. We'll look to identify public spaces for right of way to really enhance those small interventions for livability, offering pause spaces. So, really encouraging people to stay, linger, enjoy the downtown, and really activate it and create that vibrancy. From a beautification and public safety perspective, we'll be looking at that improved lighting, public art, enforcement of cleanliness and upkeeping, and ongoing partnerships with educational and cultural institutions to really improve that public realm and leverage that talent that's in the community and the great assets that you have to bring the downtown to life. And then lastly, we'll be looking to further activate the riverfront, really making it a hub for recreation and year-round programming, looking at both ecological enhancement and programming in the area, and particularly looking to include Indigenous involvement. Next slide, please. So just to give you a sense of what that might look like, here's a couple of examples of parks with tables and spaces, different amenities. You can see in the center, the top center is a project actually done by our colleagues in Belleville Placemaking, where they took a park in NDG in Montreal and actually turned a kind of defunct band shell space into a concert space. And now they host regular large events on a weekly basis that bring the community together there. So looking to kind of add that vibrancy into the downtown, fun play structures, things that make the community an engaging place to stay and sit and enjoy. Next slide, please. So we're going to be digging into the questions here. So this will be the opportunity to share your thoughts in the Q&A. And again, I think Andrew will give a brief introduction to that. But the questions that we really want you to think about for this particular move, and we'll have questions for each move as noted, is what are the ways in which public and private partnerships could help enhance public space and deliver programming and commercial activities? For example, concessions, activities, and management. What are the collaborative opportunities between educational institutions, cultural organizations, and the city to enhance downtown and public space? Are there other methods to enhance beauty, quality of public space, and public safety that should be considered, or certain actions that should be prioritized? And what interventions do you think would help make better use of the river and connect it more strongly with the downtown, considering options that are kind of light, cheap, and quick to test different approaches that could be replicated?
Thanks, Catherine. So we're going to pause for a few minutes and let everybody reflect on these questions. Tell us what you think of public space and how that applies to downtown London, and what would make you and families and friends stop and pause and enjoy outdoor space, whether it's at the river, at Rotary Square. Catherine mentioned a few spaces there. So please use the Q&A feature to share any comments or questions, and then we'll go through them in a few minutes. Again, we're using the Q&A tool this evening, and we'll be able to go through questions and comments shortly. I see a few coming in at the moment, but we'll give folks another few minutes. Thanks, everybody. I'm seeing more and more comments drop in. I see a few themes coming out, and maybe one we could start discussing is how business experiences play into this and what the connection between public space and beautification might play into business attraction and restaurants and retail and filling empty business space nearby public space. Seeing a few comments about filling vacant buildings, adding more restaurants and retail around the riverfront. few comments about nature and the importance of green spaces. A few comments about grocery stores and how important grocery stores can be for livability downtown. A few comments about health and safety, supporting unhoused Londoners. Yeah, lots of great questions here, and we can go through some of these, but maybe we could start, Catherine and Jennifer, about that business aspect and what how do businesses and retail and restaurant experiences contribute to public spaces like this?
Sure, why don't I take that as the economic development lead? I mean, certainly your business mix is incredibly important in the downtown, and hearing things like the need for a grocery store, particularly as residential uses increase in the downtown, is incredibly important and something that we're certainly looking at. Things like targeted incentives and a more robust investment attraction effort are considerations that we have in mind, but ultimately, the goal, thinking of the link to public space and commercial activities, once you have more vibrancy, people want to spend time in the downtown, and there's more commercial activity that comes from that. And that ultimately makes it a more attractive place to operate a business and a more attractive environment to invest in. Jennifer, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, that's great. I think we'll get into it more in some of the future actions as well.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Jennifer. A few comments about the connections between Canada Life Place and the Forks of the Thames, entertainment and culture, heritage conservation, supporting local music groups, theater. Could you speak a little bit about that, Catherine, about activations and programming? What part does that play into public spaces like this? I see a few ideas of engaging student theater groups, local bands, and a few comments about Canada Life Place and other arts and culture destinations, whether it be art galleries or London Music Hall, Grand Theater. Where how does that play into public space as well and contributing to the downtown?
Sorry, Andrew, can you just repeat that
Yeah,
question one more time? I
so we have a
apologize.
few comments about uh, activations and entertainment and programming these spaces. Can you speak about what it might take to program public space like this? How important is programming in addition to the design of the space?
I can take a first attempt at that one. So, I mean, I think certainly the programming is part of the piece, and looking at, how do we add that additional layer of vibrancy is a real consideration. I think really the initial interventions focus strongly on creating a space that people want to stay within, that they want to, patronize, spend time in. So whether it's programming or those little features, like thinking of the imagery that was shared, and you could see someone on snowboarding in a park feature, or some sort of like a play structure, things like that, that would encourage folks to linger. I think it is part of that piece. And Jennifer, I'm not sure if you want to kind of take the lead on additional.
Yeah, maybe what I might also add is that there's a lot of great work that's already underway. We know the use of Rotary Square activities like the Holly Jolly Market, the program that happens in the warmer months on the laneway adjacent to the market. And I think it's really about drawing on those successes and doing them more frequently and making them easier to do. So that a student group, for example, would have access to a space to be able to do things. That it's really about sort of trying different ways of activating spaces and ensuring that on any given day, you don't necessarily have to look at a calendar. You can come downtown and you know that there'll be certain locations where there'll be something going on.
Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks, Catherine. Maybe one more before we move on. There's a few comments and questions about parking. So this might be for the city team, but to access public space downtown, what is being done to support municipal parking and access to parking for visitors?
I can take that one, Andrew. So right now, the City of London is currently offering the 2 free hours on street parking in the core area, which does contain the downtown area. That is a council-approved motion that was brought forward by our council last fall, and that is in effect until 2027. So anyone who's wishing to travel downtown, whether that be to pop into a store to pick something up or to spend a couple hours in the park, you can receive 2 hours of free on-street parking by using the Honk app. You just have to put 4 letters is the promo code CORE into your phone. You get 2 free hours. On top of that, if you want to stay for an additional hour or two, standard rates apply. But we do realize that parking affordability is a concern downtown. There's lots of parking availability, but the concern really is the affordability aspect. So our administration continues to look at different options and things to try to lower that bar, because we do recognize that there are Londoners who want to travel into downtown and experience what downtown has to offer, and parking has been identified as a barrier as we've gone throughout this consultation process.
Thanks, Mike. So I know we have lots of great comments and questions here. We'll try and get to more, but I'll pass it back over to Jennifer and Catherine to move on with the presentation. And again, all the comments are going to be captured and shared with the project team after tonight's presentation. So back to you, Jennifer and Catherine.
Perfect. Thanks, Andrew. And we'll just jump to the next slide. Perfect. So our second big downtown move is around filling empty spaces. So as Jennifer mentioned, we kind of started touching on that, but really looking at, commerce, business, arts, culture, music, and third spaces to maintain the downtown as a commercial and creative hub, including a role for the City of London. So some of the goals and actions under this look at establishing matchmaking initiatives to pair underutilized buildings and spaces with active users to support downtown's economic base and revenue generation, significantly increasing the presence of arts and culture, visual arts, performance, and music in the downtown, and reevaluating event spaces to enable more frequent and larger events, including the use of Rotary Square, Jubilee Square, Canada Life Place, and adjacent surface parking and street closures. Next slide, please. So just to dig again a little deeper into some of these actions, when we're thinking about these matchmaking initiatives, we're looking at, how do we support the downtown's economic base and revenue generation, and looking at, what are the industries that are growing and how do we enhance them, matching those industries and other uses with available spaces and new uses, incentivizing business incubator spaces or business incubation or co-working space type models, co-business location models, and establishing a meanwhile lease, a temporary lease program or pilot program to incubate new businesses and give them the opportunity to test out the marketplace and their business in a downtown space, as well as for businesses, cultural uses, and other activities in existing vacant or underutilized spaces. Digging deeper into that increase in the presence of arts and culture, really looking at more established partnerships between building owners, event venues, local leasing agents, and the City of London Music Office, as well as other partners, exploring the formation of an arts advisory or formal arts and music district to really identify London as a city of arts and culture and leverage that UNESCO City of Music designation. And then lastly, re-looking or reevaluating at some of those event spaces to facilitate frequent or more larger events. Really looks at, can we establish potentially temporary event and entertainment zones in the downtown and apply this approach to other underutilized areas in the downtown, such as parking spaces, to expand events and programming options. And I know, one of the feedback pieces that I heard out in the community was, we have these great events taking place in Victoria Park throughout the summer. Can those events spread throughout the downtown a little bit more broadly, so we get to know the downtown a little bit more as well? Next slide, please. So these are just a few examples of spaces that have been reused and reutilized. Particularly I'll zoom in the vacant to vibrant at the lower middle image, which really showcases a space that, is utilized for businesses that are starting up, and allows them to kind of facilitate that testing of pop-up space. And really, one of those things that we're going to be looking to do is how do we add that vibrancy into underutilized spaces, and make it value add for the community as well as the property or business owners that are there. But the goal is really to drive that vibrancy and create those pause spaces, those places that people want to visit, that they're excited to see what's the newest business, what are the latest arts and culture happenings in the downtown. Next slide, please. So our questions for this round include what would enable or help property owners to fill vacant spaces, retail and office, for a range of commercial and creative uses, whether it's temporary or long-term? What partnerships or incentives would advance space matching between new businesses, creative industries, and property owners? And how can we enhance the downtown to make it a city of music and arts? For example, should we be looking at creating a formal arts and music district or zone? Should we target a certain number of spaces or new spaces for performance and art? Do we need formal arrangements between arts, the city, the post-secondary parties in the municipality? So
Thank you,
this will be,
Catherine.
sorry, Andrew, please go
No,
ahead.
no, sorry. So yeah, we'll pause here for another minute or two and collect any comments or questions, and I'll do my best to go through them and share them with the team. Already, we're seeing a few comments come in about art and culture in the downtown, supporting artists. People are even sharing examples from other cities of festivals. That's been shared is Fringe Festival in Winnipeg. Comments about making arts and entertainment zones. A few comments about nighttime events as well, not just daytime activities and programming, but events in the evening. I've seen a few comments about a arts or music venue as well, a performing arts venue. Um, uh, is that something that has been looked at yet in terms of a larger performing arts center in the downtown? Or what strength does London have in all of the smaller arts venues throughout the downtown? Catherine, Jennifer, would you be able to speak to performing arts centers?
I mean, just at a high level, I think, we found that there are quite a few smaller venues that are out there. Certainly looking at how we can enhance the presence of music in the city is something that our team is discussing, and particularly our Belleville placemaking team members are really passionate about how do we truly unlock that arts and culture and the music piece in particular to really maximize that UNESCO City of Music designation. Jen, I'm not sure if you wanted to add any thoughts onto that.
No, I would just start by saying that, the importance of doing a proof of concept and really testing out the ways in which we can utilize the space that exists. And then you can build towards that top of the implementation pyramid that I talked about, where the larger capital investments start to make sense because you see confidence in the market and you've got a really robust sector that is willing to take the next step.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Jennifer. A few comments have also come in about incubator spaces or free spaces for makers or small businesses. Could you speak to us about what these might be to incubate or grow small businesses?
Certainly, one of the things that we've talked about in terms of utilizing that underutilized space is how can we create space for new and growing businesses. Certainly that's going to depend on the partnerships that are developed, and a big piece of the plan is going to depend on partnerships with property owners, partnerships with, institutions to facilitate spaces like that, to allow for that entrepreneurial and cultural development activity to happen. Um, those spaces are really vibrant when they do happen and often create a fantastic, not even a pause space, but even a destination, depending on what the actual incubation activity is happening. So if it's an arts and culture space and folks are coming to look at different artists, almost like a market type of material, all the way up to, small business incubation, depending on kind of key sectors and maybe even a hot desking type of model, depending on where that fits within the stakeholders and partnerships that are out there.
Thanks, Catherine. Before I pass it over to you, I'll just end. A number of folks have shared some of their favorite arts and music venues and different ways to support them. Lots of local examples have been shared, as well as a number of other examples from other cities that we can take a look at afterwards as well. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I'll pass it back over to Catherine for the next move.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks everyone for sharing. I mean, I'm watching the comments come in and they look really great. So appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts. So jumping into that downtown move number 3, really looking at making downtown a complete neighborhood, to offer activities, essential services, and amenities to support visitors, residents, and workers, and improving the ease of getting to and from and around downtown. So that first action under this is really around aligning policies, incentives, and zoning to enable a greater mixed use downtown. So, how are we better preparing for all of that residential development that's coming for the downtown while still maintaining the great commercial and office facilities that we have? Filling the vacant spaces through adaptive reuse models, ensuring that we're maintaining kind of the heritage of the community and the creative, cool spaces that do exist, ensuring the plans and policies for neighborhoods adjacent to the downtown support continuity, and making it easier to get to and move around downtown. Next slide, please. So again, just digging a little deeper into what do those mean when we're thinking about aligning the policies and zoning, we're really looking at, we want to ensure creative and production uses in the downtown. We want to support the development of complementary residential amenities, and that goes hand in hand with commercial activities that support residential, habitation in the downtown, and a variety of commercial uses generally, and continuing to support and retain those existing residential uses and ensuring that we're preserving as much housing as we can in the downtown. Digging deeper into the adaptive reuse models, we'll look at working with property owners to identify buildings that might be suitable for that and identify those new commercial, cultural, social, and institutional uses for the space. So we're really looking at, can we bring partners together to find some creative uses for those underutilized buildings? And ensuring the plans and policies for the neighborhoods adjacent to downtown are connected to the neighborhoods beside the downtown. So how are we ensuring that continuity and flow between the downtown and the rest of London? And kind of hand in hand with that is that last action around making it easier to get to and move around downtown, which includes really evaluating potential changes to travel modes and patterns with the implementation of the mobility master plan. So really trying to understand, how do we enhance access to the downtown throughout all times of the day, because we've heard quite a bit of different feedback in terms of when it's easier or perhaps more difficult to access the downtown and which parts may be easier or more difficult to access. Next slide, please. So jumping into the questions around this downtown move, we are looking for your thoughts on, are there activities and uses that are not in the downtown that should be? What uses should be more permissive? Perhaps more floor area allowed per building, new uses, ground floor versus upper story uses allowed, and what policies or removal of regulations would potentially enable this? Are there additional municipal processes or changes to regulations that would encourage downtown development and investment? And how can access to downtown be made easier, especially when you're thinking of pedestrian and bike safety, late night bus service, and park and ride? And from what locations specifically?
Thanks, Catherine. Again, we'll give it another 2 minutes or so for everyone to drop in comments. Throughout this evening, we've had a few comments come in about transportation, making access to the downtown easier and more accessible. I've seen comments about late night transit, pathways and walkways, and several comments about cycling, the importance of bike parking. If you're shopping downtown or going to a restaurant, secure bike parking, bike paths, protected bike infrastructure. Some comments with ideas for different programs and incentives to support downtown businesses. Again, a few more comments about the importance of nightlife and ensuring programs and improvements apply not just to daytime downtown, but also nighttime with busy restaurants and eateries and entertainment venues. Nighttime is really important to consider. A few comments about the different connections downtown already has along the Thames Valley Parkway, connecting Gibbons Park, Harris Park, Ivy Park. Couple comments too about naturalizing areas and the importance of green space and naturalized areas, whether it's bee hotels or butterfly features in a downtown urban setting. A few comments have come in about that. Lots of great comments coming in. Not many questions at the moment. Catherine or Jennifer, do you have any reactions to some of these comments that have come in? I don't have many questions right now.
Yeah, Andrew, I was just making notes. So I just want to acknowledge things like Shakespeare in the Park, the banana factory, which I don't know about. I know of the mattress factory, but I'm assuming a large industrial building that's been converted to artist space. More use of Wolf Hall, I thought was a great suggestion. Someone mentioning Reading, England, that has, over time transformed their downtown. I saw a number of references to Winnipeg, which I think is a great example, not only the Fringe Festival and how that really takes over the downtown, but what happened at the Forks in Winnipeg, where, it was first a market, then a market with a lot of activity around it, then a market that had other activities attached to it, the Human Rights Museum. They've continued to build on that anchor of the Forks, and I think there's a lot of similarities between what London can do and what Winnipeg did in terms of creating those destinations that then have a lot of spin-off effects around them. And of course, they have a warming huts competition, which brings artists from all over the world now to create different warming huts. So they're also very good at doing it in the winter. Um, and there was one other one that I wanted to note. Oh, there was mention of the incentives program for residential office to residential conversion. We are looking at other incentives that are in place in other cities to do other types of conversions. So where it might not be as simple as a building, needing slight upgrades or fit ups, where there are actually conversions of office space into other uses. So Calgary has several incentive programs. Right now, they have a large building that's being converted for the University of Calgary. And I believe they also have an incentive to turn one of their office buildings into a hotel. So again, bringing, new uses and really a mix of uses that helps create vibrancy because there's multiple things happening simultaneously.
Thanks, Jennifer. Catherine, back to you.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. And thanks again, everyone. Like just echoing what I said last time, again, a whole suite of great comments for us to think about and consider. So appreciate that. Jumping to the next slide, we will do downtown move number 4, which is identifying the leadership and resources to implement the downtown plan, including public and private partnerships and a variety of funding sources. So actions under this move include defining the role of the city in the downtown, including occupancy or ownership of buildings and spaces for city use and other curated uses, creating partnerships to set priorities, implement actions, and attract investments to advance downtown revitalization, expanding administrative and operational needs to implement this plan, and identifying targeted revitalization strategies and incentives to address downtown's current challenges and identify funding sources to do so. Next slide, please. So again, just to dig a little deeper into each one of these actions, when we think about defining that role of the city in downtown investment, we're thinking of, what does their space look like? Can they potentially be more engaged or connected into the downtown? And are there, other curated uses such as city to sublease space to businesses and organizations, including a potential arm's length organization for management of spaces and investment that could be considered to further enhance the city's role in the downtown in connection to the downtown's enhancement. Again, partnerships are key in most projects to driving success, and a big piece of the work that we're doing is looking at creating those partnerships and identifying champions to set priorities, drive the implementation of those actions, and help attract investments back into the downtown and expand what's already there. Expanding those administrative and operational needs to implement this plan really refers to looking at, do we need a dedicated branch or a dedicated downtown coordinator at the city to really bring everything together, tasked to oversee implementation of coordinated placemaking, programming, adaptive reuse opportunities, administrative processes, maybe concierge services, regulatory challenges, or other initiatives that might come out of this plan. So really centralizing a focus on supporting the downtown and driving this plan forward. And then lastly, really looking at some key kind of targeted revitalization strategies and incentives to support and address those current challenges in the downtown and where those funding sources might come from. Next slide, please. So we are on to our last set of questions. So as we go through and you reflect on that last downtown move, we'd love for you to think about these questions and of course any other, questions or comments that come to mind. But how could incentives for downtown through the community improvement plans be more targeted, for example, new criteria or geography to respond to the current challenges and opportunities in the downtown? So in case you're not aware, the Community Improvement Plan is an incentive program to help property owners and business owners enhance their business or property to make it a more desirable space, or multiple other outcomes as well. But just to give you some context on the Community Improvement Plan, the next question is, what role should the city play in investment in the downtown, considering risk, regulation, and financial constraints? And how and for what activities should the private and nonprofit sectors be engaged in supporting investment, development, or enhancement? Thinking beyond solely monetary investment in the downtown. What else can be done from engaging those partnerships to enhance the downtown?
Thanks, Catherine. While questions and comments come in about these questions, I had a question come in the last move that I thought applies well here. And I'm wondering if you could speak to us a little bit about how do these actions get implemented and how will they move forward? Can you speak to us about what the governance of a downtown plan might look like to implement these ideas?
Do you want me to start, Catherine? Yeah, so we're looking at a number of models. I mean, it's obvious that London is not the only downtown that is struggling. You know, there were, I think, many downtown. It's fair to say many downtowns were on an upward trajectory before COVID, and that's thrown a whole set of new challenges in place. And so we have the advantage of looking at cities that have had downtown plans in place since 2022 or 2023 and where they're seeing successes. And so I drew, for example, on the example of the city of Calgary that has put in place first residential to or office to residential conversions and has now expanded that to other things. So that's all to say that I think, you know, there are important places where the city uh, can move actions forward through things like incentives and policy changes that enable the kind of flexibility that we're seeing in the comments about, you know, grocery stores, ground floor restaurants. How do you incentivize spaces to become used and activated and not lie vacant? But I think some of the things that are referred to here in the questions are all about what's happening internal to the city. And so we've seen cities that have put in place a branch that is specific to downtown revitalization so that you're bringing in the expertise of a number of different branch areas all into one shop so that someone is not having to go to the planning department for something and building licensing for something else and placemaking for something else, but you're really at least creating a sort of touch point of expertise so that those problem solving can happen more quickly. So that's one piece. The second piece that is referred to here is what are the things that the city, that other entities could do more of that would enable them to move more quickly. And that could be things like an organization that holds a sublease on a number of spaces, whether they be office space or ground floor space, that they can then sublease, they can hold the insurance or liability for that space, and they can help move organizations and businesses and artists into and out of those spaces and to help to test different concepts. We know that the City of London did some of this during COVID, and it was quite successful in terms of piloting the use of spaces, not only for helping businesses kind of get a foothold in the downtown, but also solving some of the other issues around the perception of public safety. And, you know, you naturally feel more comfortable in the downtown when there are activities and things going on. So that's a start.
Thanks, Jennifer. Another question that came in is about zoning. So this might be for the city team. But is there zoning or rules that allow for residential on upper floors of retail buildings downtown? Can we speak about what rules might exist for mixed use properties?
Yep, I can answer that one, Andrew. So the downtown zone that it's applied to properties in the downtown is quite permissible. There's a number of multi-uses on site. So specifically on Dundas, yes, all of those spaces are zoned for either residential or commercial on the second floor. Generally, where we do see permission, where it is not permissive, is we do want to attempt to have retail when it's located on busy streets on the first floor. But generally, what's occupying the second floors and above is multi-use of spaces and uses.
I would also add that the city has a city, well, the city has a current zoning bylaw, and you're welcome to look at the zones of specific properties by looking at the zoning map. Andrew, are you able to share a link in the chat or the Q&A box for those who may want to review those details at on their own time. I will also say that my colleagues in planning and development are currently working on a new zoning bylaw and updating the current bylaw to make it more aligned with the London plan, with the city's enforced official plan. So you're welcome to look at the existing zoning for the downtown, and then compare with the new downtown proposed zone that is still under development, so not council approved. It's being reviewed with stakeholders. So just and Andrew, if you're able to pop in a link to Rethink Zoning project as well, so give you a sense of where we are currently with respect to downtown zoning and where the city thinks we should move in the future.
Thanks, Simona. Yep, I'll get that link and put it into the chat as well. Before I pass it back to Catherine and Jennifer, just to summarize some of the other comments, we got a number of comments about supporting unhoused Londoners and consulting with agencies and services that work with and support unhoused Londoners. Um, Comments about off-leash dog parks downtown, and then a few other ideas for potential incentives or programs that can help businesses downtown. So thank you, everybody, for providing your comments. There's a question about next steps and how to continue to provide feedback. You can continue to provide feedback through getinvolved.london.ca/downtownplan. And as we wrap up the presentation, we'll speak a little bit more about what the next steps are and when we're hoping to hear feedback by moving forward. So I'll pass it back over to Catherine and Jennifer for the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Andrew. So I think that's the conclusion of our presentation today. So just really wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who joined us to share your fantastic feedback. It was really quite excellent and some really insightful pieces there. In terms of next steps, we are working on refining our actions going forward into kind of completing phase 2. So your feedback is really critical in terms of helping us refine and define those actions as we go forward. And Jen, maybe I'll pass it over to you to just share kind of those last next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, I would say Andrew has given you an opportunity to provide written feedback, and we'll certainly continue to collect that. I think we have at least another month of continuing to refine the actions and even the next level down, which is the steps for implementation. So please continue to send good examples and other feedback as part of that. I also just want to acknowledge something that came up in a number of comments that was kind of a cross-cutting theme was the idea of heritage and the importance of heritage. And I want to highlight both, that we see that as an incredibly strong asset of downtown London. We also know that in the current situation, there is, concern about these buildings becoming obsolete and not having a long-term life to them and activity. And so the importance of incentives and the thing we're doing to start with those small incremental pieces and to really fill spaces will help to ensure that we're enabled to maintain the heritage stock and also just maintain, the general feel of downtown, which is really critical to the character of downtown London. I would say probably the envy of many downtowns that have lost a lot of their historic building stock. And so the importance of the urgency to get those spaces utilized now in order to protect them, from further degradation or deterioration.
Thanks, Jennifer. So if there's any final questions for the evening, we're happy to answer any questions that might come in over the next few minutes and continue the conversation. I do want to touch on, there were, as I mentioned, a number of comments about supporting unhoused Londoners. And I'm wondering if I can pass it over to the city team to speak a little bit about what is included in the downtown plan. What's the scope of the downtown plan? Recognizing there's a lot of work happening immediately right now through emergency warming centers, micro-modular shelters, and the whole of community system response to support unhoused Londoners currently happening alongside this plan. But Mike, or Simona, if I could pass it over you just to speak a little bit about the scope of the downtown plan and what its intent is.
Thanks, Andrew. I can take that. So first of all, both city staff and the consulting team recognize that health, safety, and homelessness are among the most significant concerns residents raise about downtown and have raised throughout this process, and that these challenges are real and visible. So we're definitely aware of that. The City of London is currently taking a range of actions to help address homelessness, including expander shelter and warming space capacity, increasing access to supportive and deeply affordable housing, strengthening coordination with health and social service partners, and investing in services that connect people to care, safety, and long-term housing options. So this work is ongoing, and we remain committed to improving outcomes for Londoners experiencing homelessness. In terms of this particular plan, the downtown plan is not intended to directly or explicitly solve health and homelessness issues, as these, as I mentioned briefly, are being addressed through other important city and community initiatives already in motion, and further initiatives may continue to be developed over the next few months and years. However, the plan does focus on providing a long-term strategy for economic opportunities that support commercial, and commercial growth and downtown as a vibrant destination, as hopefully and Jennifer and Catherine as hopefully you've heard Jennifer and Catherine allude to in their draft actions review. And all of these actions, once implemented over time, can contribute to a more safe and welcoming downtown. So creating active public spaces, supporting residential growth, reducing vacancies, and encouraging everyday use of downtown, so creating that complete community, are complementary to the city's health and homelessness response. And these efforts are happening in parallel and not in isolation. So in other words, the downtown plan is intended to help create the conditions for success by supporting the downtown that is inclusive, economically resilient, and welcoming for residents, businesses, and visitors. So hopefully that addresses that question, at least to some extent.
Thank you, Simona. So we're at about an hour right now, and I do see people are starting to drop off. Are there any final comments from Jennifer and Catherine before Simona ends with a few remarks? No? Okay. I don't see any other questions coming in. Again, all the comments and questions that have been shared tonight, and there is a lot. It's very much appreciated. There's some great ideas, great perspectives, and lots of really helpful comments that have been shared with the project team tonight. We're going to bundle all of this and review it after the presentation, and it's going to be used to inform the development of the downtown plan. If you have further questions or further comments, I've put into the chat the email for the project team, dmp@london.ca, as well as the website that you can leave comments on as well. And that's getinvolved.london.ca/downtownplan. Really appreciate everyone joining us this evening for our second webinar. If you're curious about watching the first webinar, that is also on the Get Involved website. That recording is there. And we're looking forward to continue to engage with Londoners about this plan as it moves forward. With that, I'll pass it over to Simona for some final remarks.
Thank you, Andrew. So before we say goodnight, on behalf of the City of London and the consulting team, I want to thank you for attending and participating tonight. Your input, over 80 comments, thank you very much, is valuable and will be taken into consideration as we work together as a team towards finalizing the plan. Please, as Andrew mentioned, please stay updated by subscribing to the project website, and hopefully you see the link in the Q&A. A recording of tonight's meeting, as Andrew also mentioned, will be available on the website in a few days. And if you have additional comments, please provide them to the project team using the email account listed on the project website. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your evening.